Hey guys, welcome to the new shop. I'm going to see if we can't get a few more people in here before we start the stream. Hopefully you can hear me. Just type in the chat here. A few more people in here now. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Hi, Jason. Perfect. All right. Yeah. So thought I'd do something different today. It's very hard to make videos as busy as I've been lately. Hey guys, glad you could join me. So we're just going to hang out today, and maybe you'll get to see some of the stuff we're working on here. Hey, Chuck, good to see you. I'm glad to hear that, Jason. Always glad to help. So it has been a while, and everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. So basically, we ended up getting really busy, and a hard drive went down, lost a bunch of footage there, and then my laptop went out. So I'm just trying to figure out what to do. Lost some footage on this 968 turbo that we're working on, but maybe it can be recovered. And almost had the video done. And then we were working on a few other videos as well. So, it's just a time management thing. So I get home at the end of the day, I'm a little too tired to try and edit videos, but hopefully we can just start doing some live streams and you guys can see what we're working on. You can ask any questions and I'll try and help you guys out. Just kind of have a little fun here. What would really be great, and I don't think it's possible, is if YouTube would let us put pictures in the chat, but I don't think it's an option. All right, so I won't keep you guys waiting too much longer. So if you ever had a problem with the mounting ears on the AC compressor breaking, yes, that's a very common thing. Due to many reasons. One reason, it's a weird sized bolt. So I believe it's like an M10 125, which most M10s are 125, I want to say. So people will often put the wrong bolt in there. And not only will it strip it, but over time, Just the vibration of it being not as snug as it needs to be breaks it off. Not to mention that people over tighten the bolts and then they'll have the AC compressor locked down and then try and tension the belt and it just breaks the ears off. So there's like several different reasons for that, but it's pretty common to see that. I wish you were closing the trouble. Overheating issues, yeah. Never fun. Most of the time caused by thermostats. So I've found that even on the later cars, I just put the ADC thermostat in there. And when your thermostat's going bad, I've seen it where you can have a cold temperature and then one day, you might drive it for years and a lot of people say, well, my temperature's always been at the first white line, and then suddenly the next day it's at the third line and it won't come down. But if you have if you're not running an ADC waller, you're going to have overheating issues, because some of those that are off the shelf at AutoZone and stuff, they come in a box. You don't even know what the temperature is supposed to be. So I'd just avoid those. I would go online. I'm not representing any company here, but if you can go to like Paragon and select the actual thermostat range that you want, that's the easiest way to do it. Not to mention you want to also make sure that it's coupled with the right thermofan switch. Any feelings on the 968 market? Don't really know anything about it. I don't keep up with prices on any of the cars. Wish I did, but it's all speculation to me, so I just kind of don't think about it much. Any procedure for cleaning the injectors? I send them off. Again, nothing that I say in this video is going to be sponsored by these people, but I've sent my injectors to a lot of different places, and I prefer RC Injector out of Torrance, California. Check them out. They clean them up really nice and flow match them, and then they're painted when they come back, so they're not all shiny, but they don't rust. Let's see the 924S turbo swap. We're going to see that here in a little bit. Not much to see right now. We're actually doing two of them. We have a white one and a red one. Or if you're asking about the one that I turbo swapped years ago, that's not actually at this shop. That's at my old place. Do you prefer your 924S or Iris's 911? That's a loaded question. No, I actually do love my 924S. It's nice to drive. Two completely different cars. Easy solution, AC delete bracket, because race car. Yeah, I was that person when I was in my 20s. I would get rid of the AC in my car. Now that I'm old and fat, we don't delete the AC anymore. How about if the sunroof controls don't work in ACC position? Number one, could it be the ignition switch? The relay only gets 6 volts in ACC. Interesting. Let me think about that for a second. If you're getting 6 volts, the switch could be fine. Is everything else working? Because I believe the radio should also turn on at that point. You could have an issue where like maybe the sunroof relay and the radio relay, it's all one relay, is just kind of corroded in there and it's not sending enough voltage through. Never really seen that, but I would start there. I would pull that relay and just see if you're getting 12 volts there. Maybe it's not getting passed through to 30. Good morning. I bought a Burgundy 86 944 you worked on years ago, and I have been driving. I think I know which. Are you in Arizona, Henry? Because I think I may know that car. Or did you buy it out of Arizona? Um, Southern Louisiana, 115 degree. Yeah. No thanks. No thanks. I was in Southern California a few years ago, and it was 115 without the heat index, and never again, never again. I put a new thermostat in for Paragon, but no dice. I might get a new radiator fan switch. Do you recommend upgrading the 83 fan to the 3-blade 6? Yeah, if it's possible. The 6-blade fins are much better. I've got an 83, and I've never really had any cooling issues with the 3-blade fans, but I mean, the 6-blade's obviously an upgrade, but I don't think that would necessarily be your issue. Would have to see what's going on. If it now, a lot of people don't understand that the car running to the third line before the fans kick on is a pretty normal thing, especially when you're sitting at a red light or it's hot outside. But if you're driving and keeping a constant speed, especially on the highway, and the temperature's sitting right in the middle, you're fine. But if you pull up to a red light or you're sitting in traffic, of course, then it's gonna creep up. I have seen people put lower thermofan switches in there that kick on and just run the fans a lot to alleviate that, and that's fine. I mean, you can also same thing as just running the AC all the time with the fans are running. The radio does come on. Okay, so that's some good news. Um, Said you might just not be getting the power to come through that relay properly. What did you find with your car's issue last week? So, those that don't know, I took my 924S to 944 Fest. Hearing some weird sounds. So, while I was there, the car cut out in the middle of the night. So, we just got back from dinner, and I decided to go to the store to get more ice and just pick up some snacks for the middle of the night. And push the clutch in, and I got to make a right turn, and the lights kick on and the car won't restart. So I was able to pull over, and here I'm in the middle of Ohio, like 15 miles from the track in the middle of nowhere, essentially. And I get out and change the DME relay, and I start shaking the wires. And I go up underneath the dash, and then I hear something click like a relay. And I'm like, well, that's odd. That shouldn't do that. And the car starts up. And so anyway, starts up, and I decide to drive another like 10 miles to go get stuff because I'm like, whatever's going on, there's a short somewhere up near the fuse panel. And get there, come back out of the store after getting everything, start the car up, does fine. And I don't drive it the next day because there was a lot of stuff going on at the fest. But as I was leaving, I figured we're in a caravan, maybe and use their trailer if something does go wrong. But just as I was leaving, I was driving and I felt the car jerk and cut out. And I just kind of kicked the fuse panel, like the wiring at the fuse panel, and it cut back on. And I kept driving. And I was going down the road, just shaking it with my foot to see maybe as I'm getting out of the car, I got rather big feet. Maybe I'm kicking that. And so something came loose. But anyway, I made it home perfectly fine. Didn't have any more problems. I managed to like get it to where it just never did it again. We stopped several times to get gas and gas stations. So I haven't got up underneath there to check it yet. It's not a big deal. It's whenever it cuts out. But I have a feeling that maybe something on the back of the fuse block is loose. So I'll check into that later. Hopefully it's something I can just start the car and shake each wire and figure out which plug's loose. But so far I haven't looked into it. Made it home just fine. Let's see. I bought it in Arizona. That car exactly, put it in MO3. Awesome. Yeah. So what I'd done to that car is we've had a lot of Garnet cars here. I've actually got another Garnet here, car right here that looks just like yours. So I own one just like yours. So I've made quite a few videos on Garnet cars. So what we'd done to that one was we changed the clutch and the transmission in it. So it's good to see that it's still out there and running around. It's a very nice car. You got any more questions for me? I'm going to try and make this a little more interesting than me just sitting here in front of the camera here in a bit. But for now, I just wanted to say hey to everybody. I need more Nautic blues. I do. Uh, just thinking, do I have a Nautic blue here or have I had one lately? No, the last card I had was the Baltic blue, and I think you know the guy who owns that. But yeah, it's no problem. I'm glad to tell you the history of the car. I don't think we ever did the belts on that car, but I believe the guy that owned it before you was from Spartanburg, and then the new guy bought it was in Chicago, and then he moved to Arizona, and then you have it now. So what's everyone up to on this Sunday now afternoon? Going to disconnect the laptop so we can move around a little bit. So behind me, we have a car that we're doing the clutch on, mainly because the rear main seal went out on it and it's just leaking right there on the crossover pipe. Then this is, or will be in the future, a 924S turbo. This turbo's here to get lots of work done, just little odds and ends. Then we have a 85.5 Garnet car that is getting belts. I haven't installed one of their torque tubes. There's several people that rebuild them. There was one at 944 Fest, and I've got his card somewhere. Maybe that is him. I would have to look at his card. And then we've got this turbo here. You may remember it. We ended up pulling the engine because you could pretty much stick your fingers down in between the pistons. It was scored so badly. And then we've got the 968 turbo behind us. We've got the engine in now. Andreas says, hi from Austria. Hi. I was just there in December. Beautiful country. We have probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more cars outside too. Don, I got your pictures of the 89 as well. I might need some parts from you. Do you have any pictures of your spec car? If you do, feel free to text them to me. Oh, nice. Well, hopefully we can get you motivated on working on those cars again. Why it says, how's the new shop been? It's been really, really busy. It's been nonstop. I couldn't even tell you how many cars we service annually. Some of these seem to be stuck in here forever. But I'd say at least 20. But we do a lot of big jobs. So it often snowballs. They'll come in for belt service and then they need this, or the owner says, hey, might as well get the seats done, might as well get the interior done. So it becomes an even bigger project. Sometimes we get 50 pages, just 12 font type of stuff to do. So we then have to break that up into categories and figure out we're going to fix all this at the same time and then go from there. So, well, awesome. Let me know when you're in town. I haven't really had a chance to, I've had family in town, so I haven't really had a chance to look over your videos yet, but I did see you sent them. Is there anything in particular you guys want to see? Have you heard about the new track being built in North Carolina? I have. I've heard that there's two that are going to be in the Uwharrie area, just outside Charlotte. I heard about the first one, and then about a week later, I heard someone wanting to build one as well. Glad you're busy, but you got to get them out of the door. Yeah. It's hard sometimes. Once I end the live stream, I'm going to get back to it. Brought a change of clothes, so I'll be installing a catch can and finishing up installing a battery and putting in a wideband O2. Yeah, I think that the new racetracks are going to be, how do you say it? One of the companies that my wife does work for, they own something similar to that down in Miami, where you bring your exotic cars, and they have basically condominiums and garages there. And I think that's going to be like that. I don't know that it'll be open to the public. Maybe the other one will be. I haven't looked much into it. I just saw it in passing. How much horsepower does a tuned 944 turbo have in the States? Oh, but it'd be the same as in Europe. And the horsepower is about the same. The engines were the same. Great seeing you, Chuck. We'll see you soon. As far as how much power can you get out of them, we basically rebuild cars back to stock here. A lot of times we've got a car out here that has a lot of work done to it, and the owner just wants to go back stock with it. So we're not really much into the tuning business. We just get it to where it's a little bit more reliable. Sometimes when you start adding a lot of that stuff, it's just they no longer want to be reliable. So yeah. And it's even harder to do maintenance on a car that's been highly modified because if you put a map sensor on there or a MAF sensor, either one of those, years down the line, you might not be able to get that part number anymore, and it's got a particular range. And so can't get that part anymore, then you have to start all over again and buy either the newest stuff or go back to stock because the car won't run. And that's one of the problems we have now. We've got a very old MAF kit from the late 90s. You can't buy parts for it anymore. I think that just changing the MAF sensor would fix the car because the resistance readings aren't reading what they should, but you can't get that part anymore. The wire won't fit, plug don't fit. So, I mean, it would be another thing if like we could just put another MAF sensor in there, but nothing even fits that. So you'd have to replace pretty much everything on it. And then I don't even think that they make modern MAF sensors that read those parameters anymore. So it's pretty much useless. You just gotta, either buy a whole new MAF kit, modern MAF kit, but you may run into that same issue in like 10 years. I'm looking forward to that. Just let me know. We do work on 928s as well. I've got a few calls and then they never show up. I think just in the past 2 months, I've had like 3 guys call me and ask me to work on their 928s and act like they're on the way over, and then they never show up. But it's okay. I'm busy enough with the 944s. I have spoken to a few people in PCA, and they said all the good guys that we're working with, there's still guys here in Charlotte that do a really good job. I'm not trying to say they don't. I just want to make that clear. But there's just not as many guys working on the older air-cooled 911s as there used to be. And so they asked me, would you go into business doing that? And I said, well, I'd have to open up another shop and I'd have to spend half my time over there. And I already don't get enough done here. But maybe one day I'll have a 928 shop and a 911 shop. We'll just see how that goes. I really enjoy working on the old 911s. Yeah, they're pretty reliable cars. And like I said, I've had my car for 10 years, and the only thing that happens to it is every now and then I gotta kick the fuse box, and that's a recent development. So not too bad considering I drove it every day and I've probably got 150,000 miles on it. But the car is 40 years old. It needs to get some TLC. I never touch it. Oh, that's nice. So he says he's got a 930 as well. Yeah, I see a few of the old 911s come to our PCA meetings, and every time I see it, I'm like, I really want to buy one. But at the same time, I'm like, I remember what it's like driving those too. I'm like, I prefer my 924S and 944s. Yeah, it was really great. So Kevin asked if there was any favorite moments of 944 Fest. So I just pretty much tried to beat the heat. It seemed like it was a little warmer than it was last year. But as far as favorite moments, um, I tell you, the storm wasn't my favorite moment. I don't know if you guys were camping that night, but it was interesting. Luckily, it didn't hang around very long. It went by pretty quick, but I did not enjoy being blown around in the wind and rain. But no, I really enjoyed seeing all the cars there. If I did have a favorite moment, it would just been seeing all those cars in rows of three going all the way around the turn. Yeah, the old 911s are they're pretty sketchy on the track. I don't know if you've driven a new 911, but it's kind of completely different. Um, so a while back, I was sideswiped, and I had to put my car in the shop. So while it was not my Porsches, I was sideswiped in my Lexus. So we took it over and had it repaired at the dealership, and they gave me a rental car. So I could have got anything on the lot. They were like, you just pick out what you want. And so we just got the 911 convertible. So I thought it'd be fun to get a Mustang convertible as the rental. So that's what I did. But you see all those videos of the Mustangs crashing. Yeah, they are really sketchy. You could get in the 911 and just take a hard right turn and floor it as hard as you want, and it just goes. It's not dramatic at all. You do that in an old 911, it's going to be pretty dramatic. You even do that in a 944, it might get a little dramatic, but not in the new 911. But in the Mustang, I mean, it was just completely undrivable. If you went over like 20 miles an hour, it was just like the thing started just getting crazy. And this was like a almost brand new car. And then when it was wet, you could forget about it. You were better off pushing that Mustang, and even then, it was like you could just push it sideways. Like that. I don't know if it was the tires or what, but that thing was very, very scary to drive at times. So yeah, there wasn't no fooling around in it. Live stream on a Sunday. Well, I wanted to do it a while back during the week, and I'm like, well, everybody be working, so and if I do it late at night, people have got dinner and other things going on. So why not a Sunday? Oh yeah, the tent collapsed. I was in, luckily, a brand new Walmart $20 tent, and it whipped around a lot, but it was fine. I was more worried about the lightning than I was anything else. I did think for a second my canopy was going to go sailing through the air, but it just unvelcroed itself and then just sort of Superman caped. So it was tied to the ground too. So it stayed in place and I just had to pull it back down in the morning. But there were some really high wind gusts that night. Yeah. So my 924S has somewhere around 300,000 miles on the bottom end and still starts up with 5 bar oil pressure and goes down to like 2.5 bar when it's warm, not just driving all over the place. The only thing that I've really done to that car is, well, I did put a new head gasket on it when I first bought it because it had an overheating issue, but it ended up being the water pump had frozen on it. So I just changed the head gasket for good measure. But it's possible that I could have been on the original head gasket to this day, but I wouldn't have done that. At some point, I would have said, uh, I got to change it. I don't feel comfortable driving around with a 40-year-old head gasket. A friend of mine just put a titanium exhaust on his 935 DB. Oh, that's awesome. By the way, finally having your shop, I remember the YouTube videos when you change things out in the field. But you know what's so funny about that is, I had several people come up to me at 944 Fest and they were like, it was kind of a lot of the reason I did that. I did have a shop at the time, but you got to remember when I started working on these cars, they were sitting out in fields. Nobody was buying them. So I was like, why am I going to like take this in the garage and work on it when like half the people that own these cars are, working on $500 cars that they found in fields and they're just trying to get them running. So I did have a shop, could have taken it in there, but it's a lot of effort for, so it was kind of weird or to have people come up to me and they're actually like, that's how I'd work on my cars. So it was pretty nice to see that reflected in your videos. And then today things are a little bit different, but back then, yeah, that was, I'll tell you what, it's a lot cooler under the shade tree than it is in the shop sometimes. And I've got a pretty big air conditioner in here, but it is nice to be on concrete most of the time now. But even now, I can get maybe 8 cars in here and we'll have 15, 16 cars. Even still, I got to go outside and work on them. If I can't get one in, but it's something simple and I just need to knock it out and send it home, working in the ground. And there's no shade here, so it's not as good as the old place. So how many employees do you have now? I have 3, but I only work one most of the time. I'm trying to get some more people in here. I really need to maybe get a full-time guy that can. I mean, I got one guy now that he may end up doing this full-time, but as for now, sometimes I just get really far behind. So your OPRV videos have been very helpful. Yeah, thanks for that. I have a Ton of OPRVs laying around here. I'm waiting for the sun to go down to change the distributor. Yeah, if you don't have a garage, you'll want to wait till it cools down a little. Luckily now it's starting to cool off. It's only about 70 degrees here today, so I don't have to have the air conditioner running or anything. So you guys can actually hear me when I'm not talking very loud. It's good to be in. Yeah, I like being in the shop. Will there be a Helen 25? Of course, we're going to have a meet next year. We're going to try and mix it up a little bit. So if you weren't there this year, there's a lot going on with the parking lot we were trying to meet up with. The owner gave us clearance to be there. The previous owner loved us being there. The new guy gave us clearance to be there, but like one of his lackeys came out and was trying to like start something. And so we just left. So this year we may go ahead and try and start somewhere, meet somewhere else. I'd love to just meet up there at Brasstown Bald, but you know, we'll see how it goes. I've often thought about moving it to another town. Helen's a little ridiculous with their prices. It can get a little crowded as well. So maybe we'll move it somewhere else. But at the same time, if you move it to Fontana Village, then everybody's there. The prices are better, but everybody's there driving the tail of the dragon. There's going to be more traffic, and 944 Camp already does theirs in the fall. So come up with something maybe. But so far, people seem to enjoy it. Hopefully, you can join us next year. That's a good question. So, someone asked, Amsterdam? No, I haven't been to Amsterdam. If I could own any 944, what would be your dream spec? Um, okay, I was gonna say I don't really have one, but no, I think it would be maybe an 89 944 turbo, but with phone dials. So there you go. Don says, I really like the live stream. Hope you can do it regularly. I'm heading into the garage. Have a great week. Well, it was good seeing you. Glad you enjoyed it. And I would like to do something like this maybe every Sunday. We'll see. Hey, we had a pretty decent turnout considering this is the first time we've done this. I think it peaked around 20 people. Not bad. Said not the phone dials. Yeah, I like phone dials. I've had cars with Fuchs. I've had cars with BBS. I stick to the phone dials. I like the phone dials. Let's see. I did learn that if you're going to put phone dials on the Turbo S models, though, you got to have like a 5 millimeter or 10 millimeter spacer. Will not clear the brakes. Let's see. Someone said 2.7. Well, the 89 turbos were still 2.5 liters. The 2.7 NAs came out in 89, though. Yeah, they won't clear anymore, unfortunately. So you could try and put some spacers on there. So I see a lot of people that have turbos in the chat. So how many of you guys have ever driven 944 turbos? And if you have a turbo, have you ever driven the naturally aspirated versions? And that's kind of a weird question to ask because I drive a lot of aspirated ones and their power is sometimes all over the place. Depends on who worked on it. Get a car in that feels like it's down about 30 to 50 horsepower. And then once it leaves, it's driving correctly. So, let's see. Andreas says he's never driven. He just drove the 160 horsepower ones. Yeah, those are a lot of fun. Enjoyed it. And Dennis says I have a turbo. Started with my 87S. This is sold a month ago. Well, those are the 944Ss are another one of those things where I've driven some S models that are so bad they feel slower than the 8 valve versions, and then when they're tuned up right, they actually, feel decent. So it's always funny when they come in. And they strictly don't know why anyone let me drive their turbo. But turbos, on the other hand, have that same thing. So you'll end up like people taking the if they're stock, they're a lot of fun. But sometimes people put some boost enhancers stuff on there too, and makes them drive completely different. Yeah, the S2s that I've driven, they've all been really fantastic cars, but I'll get an S in here and it feels like it has 90 horsepower. Then you gotta go back and retime it properly, and then once everything's retimed, they definitely feel like 200 horsepower cars, but they still don't have the pickup that the S2s have. Well, obviously, I mean, the S2 has a bigger engine, but I've never really seemed to find that to be true with the S2 engines. They always seem to be very quick cars. Yeah. So I agree, Dennis. When I was going to turbocharge my 924S originally, I considered putting the S2 engine in there and just calling it a day because I'm like, I don't have to deal with a turbo and it's just more stuff and this and that. And then I got to thinking about how much I do not like to set the timing on the S2 engine. So I was like, yeah, just go with the turbo then. And it was a good decision. Yeah, I love both of them. I have NAs that I drive every day, and they're a lot of fun. And I have people ask me, "Well, do you miss your turbo?" Not really. Just get you in trouble. But the turbo is fun. If I could have one as a daily driver, it'd be a turbo. They're reliable enough to drive every day. But I just drive my 924S every day. That's naturally aspirated because it's just very comfortable. Has anyone turbocharged a 3 liter? Yes, we have a 3 liter turbocharged car here. Important question. How do you handle the low 944 seat when you're aged? That doesn't bother me a bit. I've been getting in them since I was 17 years old, so I'm used to it. So are you asking how I do it because I'm an old man now, or are you asking because you're wanting to make sure that when you get old, you can still get them? As an old man, I still get in the car just fine. It doesn't bother me a bit. But have you seen the supercharged guy with the 300 wheel horsepower on the dyno? No, I haven't seen that car. Where's he at? I saw a supercharged car at 944 Fest, but I don't know if that's what you're talking about. This had a V8 and it was sticking up out of the hood. It had a big blower on it. Um, and it had way more than 300 horsepower, I would imagine. Yeah, I'm born in 79, so but yeah, I've been working on these cars for a long time, so it doesn't I'm still kind of flexible. I have a younger guy that works with me and I have to have him move stuff with me. I've lost my strength over the years, but I'm still pretty flexible. Not quite as strong as I was when I was in my 20s. So that's a YouTube video. The white 944 2.5 liter. I have to look that up. I have not heard anything about that. I don't. Uh, I'll sometimes watch YouTube videos, but it's not 944 YouTube videos. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but with an Eaton, I believe. That sounds cool. Yeah, I'll definitely try and look that up. But you were asking me about a 3 liter. We don't have the turbo on it yet. We're getting ready to. We got to get the exhaust settled on it. But yeah, there's a 3-liter turbocharger there. We've sleeved the pistons with new pistons, Darton sleeves. When we got it, it had been turbocharged before, so it was either going to be we had everything fabricated up to turbocharge the engine, or we found an engine that was already turbocharged that had all the fabricated parts on it. Because either way, you're going to they're buzzing noise. So either way, it was going to be a lot of money to do it. So it was either us fabricate the parts and spend all that time and money to do it. But it turns out that there was already a turbocharged 968 that had been wrecked. So we took the parts from that. And we took the engine apart and tore it down. And basically, they had just stuck a really thick head gasket on there. So the pistons were still stock. The rods were still stock. I may have had different rods, but I want to say the rods were stock. Pretty much everything was stock on it. They just put a new head gasket on there, and then they fabricated everything to turbocharge it. And I think it was only running like 5 to 10 pounds of boost. It's like, what's the point in that? So we tore everything apart, and we put lower compression pistons and everything in it. Let's see, Eaton had them for a project in the past. I've seen a few supercharged 944s. Some didn't last very long. But I know that that's been a long history of people wanting to supercharge their 944s. You would think that there'd be something that's kind of simple or cheap to get out of a junkyard and kind of put on there, especially if you want to run micro squirt or something. Shouldn't be too bad. But the kind of boost you'd run on a 9.5 compression engine, you probably don't even need a intercooler for it. You just plumb it in. Ready to roll. I think that the intercooler would probably be the hardest part of that job. Once you figure out the mounting bracket and everything. I have never driven one that was supercharged, but it would be interesting. And I wish that they would make, something we could just bolt on here. I know the 928 guys have their superchargers. I really wish we could come up with something for that. I hadn't really put any thought into it. But it would be nice. So how many of you guys would buy a supercharger if it was just a bolt-on affair? I mean, it's not going to be simple. You'd still have to tune it, but maybe, maybe you can make something that's bolted on, comes with a pre-program that should run 90% of the engines out there. Least favorite service job on the 944. That's good. The thermostat when it's still on the water pump in the car. That one's a close. I don't know if that one's that bad. Maybe changing the fuel line hoses, the ones that run over the top of the tank. You got to drop the transmission, and you got to drop the fuel tank. And on the early cars, you got to slide it out. And then you get in there and the fuel tank is already a pretty terrible job, but those hoses are a nightmare. And I've got a car I got to do that on here soon too. So I'm not looking forward to that. With nitrous being a more simple project. And yeah, there's actually an old video from years ago where some high school guys put a fogger on their car, and I think it was like a 75 shot. That's pretty decent power for a fogger. And then probably put a 50 on there and have a lot of fun. My only deal with nitrous is, you'd hit it all the time and then you're just having to refill the bottle a lot. And that can get pretty expensive. At least like with a turbo, you spend the money and then that's that. How was your trip to 944 Fest? It was great. We had a great time. Nobody got hit this year. So we just took our time. And if you didn't know, that car has been repaired now. So it looked great. Traveled back up with us. But it was pretty uneventful. Nice quiet drive. It was a little hotter than last year, like I mentioned earlier. And we were going through the mountains of West Virginia. It was beautiful up there. And the leaves were already turning, and there were gusts of wind just carrying the leaves. And we got out of the car, and it was 92 degrees. So I was really hoping that it was going to be in the 70s, but did not turn out that way. But overall, great trip. Had a great time. It's great seeing everybody. Yeah, it finally cooled down, but then it was kind of damp after that. Saturday was nice though. So did you make it to 944 Fest as well? Oh, awesome. Was it a white car? No, I saw a red one on the track, right? Oh, black car. Okay. Got you. Okay. I was flipping through some photos and I noticed that there was it looked to be an NA. I don't remember the color. That was in the D class. D class? No, I'm saying the wrong class. Maybe it was C class. Whichever one was the turbo class. I think D was the NA class. So it was a bunch of pictures of 944 turbos, and then it was okay. Mm. So this is what I got at 944 Fest. Thought that was pretty cool. And then I got this. There was a red one as well, but it was the fire car. I don't know who got that one, but I want to build a shelf in here and just put little stuff like that up in here. But yeah, doing that turbo conversion was really fun. I'm planning to make another video on that soon. Do I still have the turbo? I do. Um, it's got a case of scope creep at the moment, though. So that's why you don't see it very much anymore. Let me plug this in. So a few years ago, I needed to install a new clutch in my turbo swap. And I took the engine out and I decided to just break it all apart, see what was going on in it. It was perfectly fine. Put some new bearings in there, threw it back together, put the clutch in. And then I bought two other red 924S's. And I'm like, oh, I know the paint's nice on this car, but I already have so many other 924S's that are red. Let's do something fun with this. So I decided I was going to paint it red and white two-tone. So that started on that project, and I never got the engine put back together completely. It's just sitting in the car with the turbo on it and everything, but never put the intake back on. I started painting it, started redoing the interior, and then I was given a wide body kit for it. And I said, well, it'd be cool to make this thing look like a Carrera GT. So I started taking the fenders off of it, and then I started repainting it again. And then I just got busy with everybody else's cars, and I never had time to do anything with it. So it's just kind of sitting there now. Needs to be finished up. But yeah, basically it would have been a simple clutch change and it'd have been back on the road. But there was a bunch of other stuff that kind of came to life and ended up wanting to do other things with it. Yeah. Thanks for joining me here. We're just kind of hanging out. I don't make very many videos anymore. And you got to kind of keep the target moving when you're on YouTube. So you'll always be someone that comes along and does what you do and they do it better. And as far as videos go, and maybe even work too, but there's always someone at your heels and you just got to keep moving. You got to do new things and you can't stay stuck doing that same thing. And I don't really have time to edit videos anymore. And when things happen where the laptop goes down or I just lose my hard drive or something goes wrong with it, then, you got to come up with new ways to do new things. And so I wanted to live stream from 944 Fest last week, but unfortunately there just wasn't a good signal out there. I could get it to work a little bit, but not enough to make it worthwhile. So I wanted to stream on the way up, and I got some ugly cords behind me because that's how I've been keeping this battery alive while I'm live streaming. But yeah, thanks. Hopefully you guys can see everything behind me. But yeah, I was really looking forward to live streaming from 944 Fest, but it just wasn't going to be practical. I would probably just lose connection the entire time. Let's see, not going to happen. There's no 944 Westburst. Well, I appreciate that. That was great meeting you too. So yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of fun at 944 Fest. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the view. We've got a little 944 Fest going on right now. Let's see. So my phone's ringing. So anyway, guys, I'll probably just end the stream here in just a minute. I just wanted you guys to come hang out, have a little bit of fun. Maybe one day we'll do a live stream where I'm actually working on something here. I just wanted to test it out and see how this would go. So far, I'm not really having any problems with it. Seems to be going pretty well. I like answering everybody's question and just showing them the new shop and let you guys see what's going on. I've got to go back to work. So someone asked, before I go back over some of these cars that we have here and what they're in for. I did it earlier, but got to answering questions and it's been a while, so might as well do that. And then I'll get off here and I hope you guys have a good Sunday afterwards. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have about another 9 or 10 cars outside, roughly. Maybe more than that. But I'll show you the ones that we have in here. Yes, I'll show you the 3-liter turbo here in just a second. So this car is in for new, really a rear main seal, but we're going to do the clutch while it's in here. And so it'll come down here. You can see it has the turbo cooler on it. So this is a 86. It's a fairly early 86 as well. Not as early as the other 86 that I have, but it's still pretty early. And then we have a 924S that we're turbocharging here. Not really much to see yet. We're building the engine. And then this 86 944 turbo is just getting a lot of little odds and ends. And this is an 85.5 that's getting new belts, rollers, water pump. You can see new water pump and everything's in. I just got to put the belts on. I'm going to try and finish that up today. Put the 6R oil cooler housing in there as well. And then we have another 86 turbo here. And this one had a very scored block. But you can see we rebuilt the turbo. And it's got new pistons. Rebuilt the head. New steel liners in it. And then this is the 3-liter turbo. I always keep these around. Never know when you need a water jug, especially one with a lid on it in case you have to mix something. So just didn't want it in the floor, but it didn't need to sit there either, I guess. But yeah, let's see if I can get closer down here. You can see all the new parts are plated. Darton sleeves, rebuilt head. It's going to be a beautiful car. So it doesn't look like much now, but when we first got this car, it actually looked decent in photos, but there were a lot of stone chips and cracked Bondo, and it was a pretty big dent in the door. So if I ever do make the video on it, you'll be like, what did you do to run that car? But it was pretty bad. It just didn't show up on camera. It looked beautiful, but in real life, there was a lot going on. So we sanded it down and we've got most of that fixed now, but it's definitely going to need to be repainted. So that's what we're going to do for it once we get the engine rebuilt. So Neil said, take care and keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Someone said, no car lift. No, we do not use car lifts. Have the room for a car lift. And there's days where I kind of want a car lift, but the way our shop is set up, we kind of have to move cars around. and we'd have to constantly unbolt it. But not only that, we get the cars high enough to work on them without needing to even need a lift. It's not very bad at all. We we got certain lifts that lift it up, and then we can drop engines and anything out on the floor. Yes, we have to lay on our backs, but we don't have to worry about the cars coming down on us. Some of these cars, especially the 944s, take the engine out. The back's heavy now. Take the engine out, or take the trans out. Now the front's heavy, so it gets a little kind of crazy, but no big deal. I don't particularly miss having a lift in here. So how many people are working on these cars? Do you mean here at the shop with me, or just in general? Yeah, I recently sold the Burgundy NA. No. Hey. Yeah, I think he's here in the chat, or he was earlier. The guy who bought your car, Alex. No problem, Kevin. Thanks for stopping in. Oh, how many people are in the shop? I have 3 employees. They're all part-time at the moment, but I do need to see if one of them wants to move up to full-time, or maybe I'll hire full-time. It's a little out of control at the moment. So I need to get caught up on a lot of stuff around here, as you can see. But some of these guys, they're still learning. And so I try to give them stuff that they can handle. And when I have time, I try and train them on new stuff. And some things I just prefer to do. So there's that. I don't really want anybody doing it. I do let them put the timing belts on, but I'm the one that like checks the stuff to make sure it's all done right, not going behind everybody. And nothing on them. I'm not saying anything about anyone in particular. I'm just saying that, like, in general, I've been told that, like, maybe I should let the leash out a little bit on people, but it's just one of those things. Just you want things done a certain way. So it's always glad to see like many. Yeah, 40-year-old cars at this point. And people still enjoy them. Yeah. And the funny thing is that I see more and more people buying them every day because, they're 911 owners, but they don't want to drive their 911, ruin the value on them. So they buy 944 so they can drive a Porsche every day. And so this is like their third Porsche or something, but they can actually take these out and beat on them and enjoy them. How did you attain? Well, I got started in these cars because I bought a 924S years and years ago, and I'd taken it to several places to have work done to it. And I was in IT at the time. And so I just wanted to get my car fixed. But every time I would take it somewhere, they just didn't do a good job. So I parked the car for a few years, and when I came back to it, I just started reading on forums, but everything back then was scattered across like 10 different forums. And so once I started putting everything together, I was like, this stuff, I mean, I'd taken classes in high school of body repair and engine repair, and never really thought that I'd used it, didn't want to work on cars. And then as I was finding out that, like, it was very hard to find someone to treat my car the way I wanted it, I just decided I was just going to do it myself. So, and at that point, it turned into, well, I'll show other people the work that I've done to my car. And then it snowballed into everybody else wanted the same work done to their car. So it just kind of, that's the way it just came from working on my own car and figuring stuff out, and having, the backbone of old forums. But Uh, what I used to do was go on the forums and try and consolidate everything into like a couple of posts so that way if people were trying to work on something, and so they could find it in one spot. And then that just kind of turned into the YouTube channel, because at that point I was like, well, I'm gonna just go make YouTube videos and do the same thing. But yeah, everything was, me putting hands on stuff and doing it to my own car first, and realizing that other people needed this service as well. So awesome. Let me see. I watched an NA race in Australia today. That was cool. Yeah. I'm getting ready to pick up my 85 and a half, and timing belt clutch has been done. What preventative maintenance would you recommend next? Um, did they do the oil cooler seals? Um, that's to me just as imperative as doing the timing belt, uh, maybe even more so. So whenever you go in and get this work done, you want to make sure that they're changing those seals, because when they fail, then you've got a nightmare on your hands. There's a video that I made several years ago now. It's probably been 5, 6 years ago. We had a car come in. The guy swore up and down that the head gasket had blown, but it was, of course, the oil cooler seals, and it just made the biggest mess. We had to take the whole engine apart to get all that stuff out of there. So make sure that you always do the oil cooler seals anytime you have that water pump off, because you can do it with the water pump on, but I don't recommend it. So that's why we do it while we've got everything apart. That's awesome. So anyway, guys, let's see. The oil cooler seals are only on S's and turbos, right? No, they're on, even on turbos and S's, you need to change those. The turbos, they do not have the same sort of heat exchanger as the naturally aspirated models, but those seals will fail. I've seen them fail on the turbos as well. So even if you have a turbo, you got to get that done. So yeah, going back to the oil cooler just for a second. Yeah, change them on any car, S's, turbos, S2s, any of those, naturally aspirated, all of them. And then said my son's neighbor owns several 944s, and he asked him, he did all his work for him, and he said, where did he take it? He said Porsche shops locally would only work on. Yeah, there are a lot of Porsche shops in this area, just right around me, and they will often pawn off some of their work to me because we specialize in these cars, because they want to get out of the 944 game. It doesn't really. Uh, they're working on 911s and trying to do seats and other stuff like we kind of do here, and it's hard to get those done when you got a bunch of 944s. On the other hand, that's what we do. So but they work on 928s, and they'll push the 928s off on us sometimes. Dropping the oil pan with the engine in the car is my favorite job ever. Yeah, that's not a fun job. We've got a car here we've got to do that on, but it actually looks more like the lower balance shaft seal, and the back's leaking. So that'll be a little bit of a better job. Hopefully it's just that. We can fix that without having to take the oil pan off. I've got an 86 944 that has been sitting for about 3 years. What do you recommend to replace? So if your car's been sitting for about 3 years, in some cases you could get away with not very much going wrong with it. Of course, you need to, if you don't know the history on the car, you want to do the belts, rollers, and the oil cooler seals, but also the water pump. If you get lucky, the injectors won't be clogged, and then you can just put some new fuel in there and start it up. But I found that a lot of times the fuel injectors are clogged, the fuel pump's clogged, the fuel filter's clogged, the strainer's clogged. So if it's only been 3 years, you might get away with just the injectors being clogged up, but I would just send those off if they are. But yeah, not a lot goes wrong in 3 years. I've seen cars sit 20 years and put fresh fuel in there and start it up. But sometimes it sits for 3 years and the whole fuel system's varnished. So you just never know. Expect the worst. But see, the overheating issue I'm dealing with when I turn it off, I have the little coolant leaking out. Let's see. Yeah, no problem. So Jason says the overheating issue I'm dealing is when I turn it off and I have a little coolant leaking out. Where is it leaking from? If it's just the hose, then you might be able to just reset the hose and then maybe tighten the clamp up or put a new clamp on there. But how often do I come across cracked oil pickup tubes? Like never. Most of those, like when I do see them, someone's put the wrong oil pan on there. So, so there are two different sizes of oil pans. Some are deeper than others. And the few that I've seen, yeah, not only that, the pickups on them are also, some are this big, some are this big, and people put the wrong pans on there because they're like, oh, I'm going to put the deeper sump on here. And then they didn't match that to the pickup tube. And it just kind of, there's that much clearance. Leak is coming from the hose and a little dribble from the cap. So the leak is coming from a hose. Yeah, I would just replace the hose and replace the clamp. Well, also check if you might pull the hose off and you find that whatever, especially if it's on the return hose, those things rust out. It's the return pipe. Those things just rust out and you're just going to have to replace it. So that's probably an issue there. If you take the hose and pull it back and see any rust holes in it, then you're never going to get it to seal. Have the airbag light on. 2 Porsche dealerships in South Florida and a well-known shop couldn't figure it out. Any idea where to try next? Airbag delete time. The airbag is surprisingly not that hard to fix in these cars. So if the airbag light is flashing, then the unit's bad. You just got to have someone with the tool to take the airbag control unit out and replace it. If the light is on solid, then they should be able to try and reset it. That's pretty simple to do. However, there's a lot of things going on. So if you can't reset it, you probably got a clock spring issue. I've seen that before. What happens is people take the engines out of the cars and they take the cross member out and they spin the steering wheel. Now the steering wheel can spin 360 degrees around and it just breaks the clock spring. But if you can get another one and put a new clock spring in there, and it could also be that the sensors have just failed, but that's unlikely. I've seen them never do that. So I went through the same issue on several cars now, and I've even made a video on it, how to test the airbag system. You have to dig deep in the videos. So a lot of people are like, why don't you just break the videos up? Well, I started out doing how-to videos. They got like 5 views, and then I started doing longer videos with how-to stuff in it, and they got like 500 views. And then I just took the how-to stuff out of the videos and made it entertaining. They got more views. So it was like, if it's worth my time to do this stuff, I have to make it worth it. So, but in those longer videos, you'll find that I repaired the airbag in one car. Ended up being the control module, but I did show how to check the impact sensors and the clock spring, and even reset it all, because once we put the new control unit in there and we hooked it all up, we reset it. And it's like way easier than what you think it'd be. But no, yeah, hopefully that helps you some. Have you guys deleted the anti-vibration axles? One of the correct answers word. So I won't really get into some of this. So yeah, check it out on the airbags, and just hopefully that helps you. It's the Nautic Blue video series. I noticed the airbag light was flashing like early on, and then it was the last thing I went back to on it, because I checked everything and I just kind of gave up on it. But I ended up going back to it and fixed the airbags. It wasn't bad at all. But it did stomp me because nobody else had that problem. So yeah, someone says, have you guys deleted basically the balance shafts? There's a rumor that, so I'm not going to get into this. There's politics and some things. So yeah, no, we don't delete them. I have deleted them, and we used to delete them on race cars and other stuff, not the 944 race cars, but when we were actually being trained by engine professionals to delete them, but the vibration that would be necessary, that would necessitate breaking one of the pickup tubes would be caused by like solid motor mounts or something. Like, I got a car out here that just needs new motor mounts, and that would absolutely like break everything. Like this car right here. And JR says, do not delete the balance shafts. Stuff will break. Well, exactly. Just, it's politics, man. I don't get into that. A lot of people will tell you that the brake stuff, and then like we were literally taught in school that you take them out for race cars because they were meant for the street. And so, I mean, did they make any difference? No, it didn't make any difference. Now, if you put a 4-cylinder on solid mounts, you're going to break stuff. Don't put a big 4-banger on solid engine mounts. That will just break everything. I'll break the car and break you. But you can do that with V8s, because V8s are a lot smoother than the 4-cylinder, and it has nothing to do with the balance shafts. It's about firing order and stuff. But firing order and firing frequency. But you have more pistons, the smoother the engine. You can put a B12 on like solid mounts and you'd never even know it was running. It'd be like an electric engine. But yeah, so everyone has their own opinions, and we just kind of, it's just whatever. But I agree. When we work on cars here, we don't do that. We don't do it. We don't do it for spec racing. We don't do it at all. Do I have a car that has balance shaft delete? Yeah. And can you tell the difference? No. And it's not going to. And like the guys who taught me, I mean, these were professional engineers that actually put the balance shafts in there. We're like, yeah, we take them out for the racetrack. So, I mean, like, you're going to believe whoever. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. But, anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave the stream at that. And I hope you guys have a good Sunday. And I hope to see you next week. We'll see if we can do another one. So I will let you guys know throughout the week. And maybe next week you can join me as I work on something. So I'll see you guys then. Have a great week.